This is USVI News, your Virgin Islands connection.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us for USVI News. I'm Emily Matson. A big step for the territory this week. The USVI is officially kicking off the new community vaccination centers for COVID-19. These centers are taking place throughout the territory through the help of several local and federal agencies. Monday, hundreds of people got COVID vaccines to help stop the spread of the deadly virus. Our USVI News' Ali Bourne-Vinek has more on how the first day of vaccinations went in St. Thomas.
Emily, it's been a steady flow of patients on St. Thomas for the first day of vaccinations at the new community center, including the one on St. Croix. Those who came today had called and were scheduled to be in this first group of vaccinations here at UVI Sports and Fitness Center. And inside you'll see that there are plenty of safety protocols that are carried out.
What's typically a place for college basketball has been transformed to host St. Thomas's new community vaccination center for COVID-19. The Department of Health shares how many came together to make this possible and make sure important steps were in place for the vaccinations.
Our biggest challenge was to make sure that we had enough vaccines allocated to the center so that we can have the mass vaccination numbers that we wanted to achieve, which would be at least 234 vaccines a day. So we already have providers providing vaccinations on a daily basis in the territory, but the challenge is trying to ensure that we can get that amount of people vaccinated in one day. So sometimes we have providers who can actually provide numbers like this, but perhaps maybe one day out of the week. Not necessarily every day. So we really wanted to have the mass vaccination or the community vaccination centers operational on a daily basis so that we can increase our numbers, get more people vaccinated faster. So to do that, the major challenge was to ensure that we actually had the amount of vaccines allocated to the vaccination centers and still have vaccines available in the territory for the other providers to continue to vaccinate.
What we've seen thus far is mainly persons over the age of 45. That was about the majority in the first block, and it looks to be about the same in the second block. But we want to encourage persons, mainly between those ages of 18 to 30, that may be a little hesitant, that the site, it moves rapid. And you won't have to, let's say, spend your whole lunch hour or your break waiting to get the vaccine. So even if you set the appointment, it's in a 2-hour block, you have your appointment time, you have definitely enough time to get your vaccine and return back to your home or to your workstation without even, maximizing all of the time allotted by your employer.
More than 24 people make up the medical support team administering the shots to patients. The goal is to have scheduled 234 vaccinations per day, as the territory's goal is to have 50,000 vaccinations by July 1st.
We're collaborating closely with Vitema on their hotline for appointments, and they're the ones feeding us with, for instance, the 234 appointments for today were provided to us by Vitema at 0700 yesterday morning. So those are the folks you see coming in now. We're doing it by block. We're keeping it a little bit more organized that way. When we give somebody an appointment, we go from 8 to 10, 10 to 12, 1 to 3, and then 3 to 5 are the 4 blocks that we're using. We're setting up 40 appointments first, then 77, 77, and then at the end of the day, that last block would be another 40, adding up to 234.
Well, we're here as part of also the governor's 50,000 protected Virgin Islanders by 1 July. And so the mission will continue as long as the need is here from FEMA. So that's really FEMA working with our partners in the Virgin Islands Department of Health and the Virgin Islands Territorial Emergency Management. So that we're here as long as they're needed, and there's a demand for the Department of Defense to assist our territorial partners here on the islands.
In St. Thomas, Ali Bourne-Vinek, USVI News.
And USVI News also stopped by the vaccine clinic in St. Croix Monday. Coming up Tuesday here on USVI News, we'll show you how things went there. Meantime, Americans are expected to begin receiving the nation's first single-shot COVID-19 vaccine sometime this week as the Johnson & Johnson vaccine joins the Pfizer and Moderna shots in the nation's war against the pandemic. Only 4 million doses of this vaccine have been made so far, but the company projects 20 million doses should be available by the end of this month. And there's also some hopeful news on the COVID's front lines. The number of people in hospitals infected with the virus has fallen below 50,000 for the first time in nearly 4 months, and the rate of infection has slowed. However, new variants still remain a concern. Police in St. Croix are asking for the public's help after an alarming number of homicides over the weekend. In St. Croix, several deadly shootings this weekend have left 13 people shot and at least 5 dead, according to the Virgin Islands Police Department. The first homicide happened Friday morning around 9:30 a.m. on Main Street in Williams Delight. They say 30-year-old Kevin Jerome was shot on his way to work in broad daylight. He was transported to Juan Louis Hospital and died of his injuries. The second homicide happened around 4:30 Saturday afternoon in Estate LaGrange. Police say family members of 66-year-old Elsie Ruiz found her shot to death in her home. While police were processing that homicide scene, they received a report of shots being fired at the corner of Pocket and Estate Lorraine. Reportedly, the corner Pocket was packed with people when 6 people were shot, including 23-year-old Dewan Tyson, who was killed. And less than an hour later, another report of a shooting came into police. This incident happened at the Ann E. Heiliger vegetable market in Frederickstead. Officers say they found 49-year-old Johnny Martinez dead at the scene. There were 3 other shooting victims who were taken to the hospital. 47-year-old David Clouden died while he was there. Police are asking for the community's help in solving these crimes with any tips, as some of the shootings, they say, had several eyewitnesses.
The Pocket was crowded. It was heavily populated. So there's people that saw what happened, know what happened, know who was firing shots from across the street by the dump truck, know who was firing shots directly in front of the business. It was 3 debris field, and people saw and know how it started and how it ended. We're asking you for your help. The only way we can get these things to stop is when you do your part as a community. As to the market, there was a party going on, so there was individuals all around that area that saw what happened and know what happened. You know, this is reminiscent of what transpired November 30th of 2018, when we had 7 people shot that same night from the same location. And we're asking again, like we begged back then, for you to please tell us what you know, so we can stop these things from happening, so that you can sit down and enjoy company of others outside your doors without fear of anybody shooting you innocently.
Again, as Lieutenant Joseph said, a few of these shootings happened in heavily populated areas with several witnesses. And as you just heard, officials are begging anyone with any information on any of these deadly shootings to please come forward. Just call 911 or Crime Stoppers USVI. Almost a year after school buildings closed because of the pandemic, some young kids will head back into the classrooms this week in St. Croix. The Department of Education announced a return to in-person instruction for public schools in St. Croix beginning March 2nd after a series of health and safety inspections. Public schools will be open for students in grades pre-K through 1st grade, along with special education and career and technical education for in-person learning 5 days a week, again beginning March 2nd. Now, the only exception here is the Claude O. Marco Elementary School, as they are fixing a leaking roof right now. So then beginning on March 9th, students in 2nd and 3rd grades will resume in-person instruction in St. Croix. The Department of Education has created an action plan for all of these schools, which include COVID safety precautions like temperature checks, social distancing rules, hand sanitizer stations, and mask breaks for the kids. Parents can continue the option of learning virtually if they so wish. Meantime, general education students in 4th through 12th grades will continue to learn virtually. No word yet from the Department of Education on when they may return to the classrooms, and dates for the return to in-person learning in the St. Thomas-St. John district, we're told, will be announced shortly. So we'll have more details coming up on that. And by the way, schools were closed March 14th of last year, so nearing a year now. Well, the official start of hurricane season could be a bit earlier next year. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, otherwise known as NOAA, has announced it will consider an earlier official hurricane start date. Hurricane season in the Atlantic Basin usually runs from June through November. The revised season would begin, though, on May 15th. Devastating early storms in the last 9 years are driving NOAA to take a look at the beginning of the official early season start. Those at NOAA say these late May storms may have caused at least 20 direct deaths and $200 million in property damage. Any potential change to the official length of hurricane season, though, is not expected to be implemented in time for the 2021 season. But NOAA does plan to begin issuing tropical weather outlooks on May 15th of this year. And a quick heads up for residents who live in St. John who use the residential trash bin in Great Cruz Bay. The VI Waste Management Authority is closing the site permanently effective March 15th. So area residents are encouraged to dispose of their household trash at the Pine Peace bin location, where an additional 20-yard bin will be placed to accommodate the extra trash there in this change.